So Apple has just done an oopsie because somehow weeks before the potential November event, a Russian man has unboxed and ran benchmarks on the unreleased M4 MacBook Pro. Yes, you heard me right. Never did I expect an Apple product to get leaks like this in today's day and age. This is very much something that happens with Google, but Timothy, I'm a little disappointed. But hey, at least it's good news for us because this does basically reveal everything about this new MacBook, so let's delve in. Number one, this unboxing video does confirm that Shrimp Apple Pro's previous leak was legit after all, and Apple is indeed being pretty lazy with the packaging, and they're just reusing the M3 boxes. I know many were surprised by this on Twitter, but let me remind you guys, the M3 MacBook Airs had the same wallpaper and box as the M2 model, so personally, I'm not too surprised. They've got to maintain those high margins somehow. Though I will mention that the M2 MacBook Pros had the same wallpaper on the packaging, but the marketing material featured a new wallpaper, so yeah, the same could apply here. Now you may be wondering, why do I care so much about a bloody wallpaper? Well, of course, when the design's not changing, that's the only visual change we can look forward to, and I love myself some snazzy new Apple wallpapers. You know what else I would love? If you subscribe to the channel, of course. I would greatly appreciate it, and it would bring you the latest about Apple right to subscription box, so please consider it. It would be appreciated, so join the saranbyte gang now. Anyways, let's move on to the main hardware changes with the M4 MacBook Pro, and for the most part it's a chipset refresh. This is the base model that's being covered in this unboxing, and of course that has the brand new M4 chipset. The packaging reveals the base model now has a 10-core CPU compared to 8 CPU cores with the current M3. They also ran a Geekbench test to give us a better idea of the performance upgrades, and while M4 achieved a single core score of 3864 and a multi-core score of 15288, and the GPU Metal score was 57603. Now those are many big numbers, but basically what you need to know is that this is a whopping 4% faster than the M4 iPad Pro, but what's actually more exciting is that the base M4 is now on par with the M3 Pro and M2 Max, which is pretty crazy to think about. The next change is even more exciting because the packaging also reveals 16 gigs of RAM could be the minimum for all Macs from here on, and thank you Apple God for finally giving us this. They're listening at last because we've been begging for them to get rid of 8 gig Macs for years, and this alone would be a big reason to get the M4. In fact, I would say single-handedly the main thing that disappointed me with last year's M3 MacBook Pro was the fact it came with 8 gigs of standards. Otherwise, it was a terrific machine, and so I'm happy to see Timothy's listening to us and has been gracious enough to give us 16 gigs of RAM. Thank you very much. Now, of course, I'm aware it's not clear this is the base model, but usually the models produced in bulk before release are the base models. Those are the ones everyone buys, and so I think 16 gigs will be the new minimum. Storage has not changed, it stays at 512, but that's enough for most consumers, and do remember you do have the choice to use external storage, whereas RAM is not upgradable, so it's important they upgrade that over the storage. We also see 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports on the M4 model, which is another new upgrade because do remember the base M3 had 1 less port, so we do now have feature parity across the range in this aspect. What's also coming from more expensive models are new color options, and actually I just mean one new color because Space Black is now here on the base M4. With the M3 models, you are forced to go for the M3 Pro if you wanted this, or else you had to settle for the horrible space gray finish. So I'm glad it's finally coming down to the base model. Now interestingly, there's only been leaks regarding the base M4, and even previously leaked developer logs only showed evidence of the base M4 chipsets, and so currently there is no real evidence of higher-end MacBook Pros releasing in a few weeks. Now does that mean we're only getting the base M4 MacBook Pro in November? Well, according to display guru Ross Young, display panels destined for the 14-inch and 16-inch M4 MacBook Pros did start shipping to Apple last month, and of course, that does heavily suggest that we're going to see higher-end models launching in November as well, since a 16-inch doesn't come in a base M4 variant. You can only configure that with the Max and Pro chipsets. We've discussed performance upgrades coming to M4, but what other changes can we expect with this new chipset? Well, for once, we don't have to speculate because the iPad Pro already features the M4. This is built on a 2nd generation 3nm process that's much more efficient to produce. The chip also features a new display engine, dynamic caching that helps significantly increase performance for demanding professional apps and games, and most importantly includes a neural engine that fuels accelerated AI workloads. And that last point will be the main thing Apple flexes in the marketing, because remember, the big focus right now is Apple Intelligence, and much like they've done with iPhone 16, I expect Apple to push the idea that these Macs are powered by the awesomeness of Apple Intelligence, and M4 plays a massive role in that. And actually, I think it's because of AI we're getting an upgrade in base memory, since of course, more RAM is needed to run these algorithms. Things do get interesting when we get into the variants the M4 could come in. Sedonin is the codename for the base M4, then we have Bravo, which will be the mid-tier chipsets, so I'm assuming that's both the M4 Pro and the M4 Max. And then Hydra is the highest end offering, which apparently is designed for the Mac Pro, so that could be the heavily rumored Ultra or Extreme chipset that we have heard about in the past. I do want to note, by the way, it's interesting that both the M4 Max and Pro fall under the same codename because, unlike the M1 and M2 variants of the Pro and Max, the M3 variants were actually completely different chipsets. Before, they would have the same CPU configuration, but it would be the GPU that's different. But now even the M3 Max offers more performance cores over the M3 Pro, and so could M4 be returning back to the M1 and M2 layouts where the Pro and Max had the same CPUs? That certainly would be nice, considering M3 Pro in some ways was a weird downgrade over M2 Pro. Now, apart from MacBook Pros, there are two other M4 Macs we could see launch in November, and that's the new iMac and Mac Mini. Similar to the MacBooks, the iMac should be a chipset refresh for the most part, though of course it would be nice to see those new USB-C accessories and maybe some new snazzy colors. The Mac Mini, however, will be getting a new design with a much smaller chassis that's more in line with the Apple TV. Here's a comparison picture of the current and possible new design by TechGod on Twitter, and you can see how drastic the redesign is going to be. TechGod even theorizes that we could see elements of the Mac Studio design with this new Mac Mini, which I think could make sense. I would also like to see a space black option, similar to how they offered a space grey Mac Mini in 2018, but then again, colors don't really matter with a metal box that's going to be tucked away in the corner. Now, in terms of I/O, there's going to be a HDMI 2.1 ports, 3 Thunderbolt ports on the back and 2 on the front, which is a massive upgrade over the current M2 model that features 2 Thunderbolt ports. And so, breaking news, guys, for once, Apple's making the product smaller, but giving us more ports. It's unheard of, but it's happening. Now, what's also unheard of is that Apple's keeping the price exactly the same according to Gurman. This case is going to be cheaper to build apparently, and so it's really rare we see a new design and also no price increase. And just as I wrap this video up, there's now another Russian guy unboxing another M4 MacBook Pro. What the hell is going on? But anyways, this guy reveals in the settings page that the Mac is called MacBook Pro November 2024. So clearly that does confirm to us that Gurman's right about a November 1st event. That's likely when we're going to see these Macs officially release. But it's crazy that people are getting hands-on with these machines weeks before the event, and Apple's not really doing anything to stop this. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching. Right, so after months of begging Timothy, AirPods Max have been updated at last, and oh my god, is this a revolutionary change?